She stood on a brightly lit stage at 13 years old, her voice raw and fierce, her energy completely uncontainable. The audience sat in stunned silence as Courtney Hadwin poured everything she had into a song that nobody expected a tiny girl from County Durham, England, to deliver with that kind of power. No one saw it coming, and in 2025, as a new generation of viewers is discovering her original audition through viral clips circulating across TikTok and YouTube Shorts, that footage still stops people cold the same way it did the first time. The full story of what happened to Courtney Hadwin deserves to be told completely. The rise, the moment that changed her life forever, and the tragedy that followed her dream. Every twist, every turn, stay with me. A little girl with big dreams. Courtney Hadwin was born on May 6, 2004, in Hesleden, a small village in County Durham, England. Her parents, Anne-Marie and Paul Hadwin, were hard-working people who noticed early that their daughter had something unusual. Courtney first encountered soul music when she was very young. Her mother played records around the house, and from an early age, Courtney was not just listening. She was absorbing. By age 3, she was dancing with her hands in the air whenever music played. By 8, her school music teacher had noticed a voice that did not belong to an 8-year-old and encouraged her to join the choir. Weekly rehearsals in the school hall built her confidence steadily. She was nicknamed Rocker Girl by her classmates after they watched her sing and move simultaneously. She never seemed nervous in front of people the way most children do. She seemed, from very early, to be most comfortable when she was performing. At 10, she formed a small group of neighborhood children she called Durham Soul. Their parents contributed to buy guitars and drums. Small crowds would gather. A local newspaper ran a short feature about a young singer with an unusual voice. The headline read, "A young girl brings soul to County Durham." That article made her parents proud and gave Courtney something more important: confirmation that her voice could move strangers, not just people who already loved her. She trained at Shotton Hall Theatre School, where her coach worked with her on phrasing, breath control, and emotional expression. Her first real public stage was at a small festival in Durham City. She was nervous under the lights for about 30 seconds. Then she found her focus, and by the time she finished, people who had never heard of her were on their feet. By 12, her ambitions had grown bigger than Hesleden could contain. She started saving her pocket money. She was thinking about plane tickets. The audition that stunned America. In the summer of 2018, 13-year-old Courtney Hadwin stepped off a plane in Omaha, Nebraska, carrying a small suitcase, a leather jacket, and a level of determination that seemed disproportionate to her size. She had never been to the United States before. On the morning of her audition, she arrived at the CenturyLink Center, held her fedora in one hand and her audition form in the other, and followed the producers through a narrow hallway onto the stage. Simon Cowell, Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and Mel B watched from the judges' table under bright lights. When Courtney walked to the center of the stage, the room went quiet in the particular way it does when something is about to happen. The opening chords of "Piece of My Heart" began. Her voice came out soft at first. She closed her eyes, found the beat, and then her true power arrived. Her tone cracked with longing and grit. She stomped her foot in time with the music. She moved like a singer twice her age and with twice her experience. Simon leaned forward, eyebrows raised. Heidi sat bolt upright. Howie covered his mouth. When the final chord rang out, the theater exploded. To hit his golden buzzer. Courtney's eyes opened. She saw the red light glimmering across the stage, looked at the judges, and then off to the side where her mother was standing backstage in tears. When she was handed a microphone for the brief post-performance interview, her voice was shaking. She said, "I love to sing. It makes me feel free." The simplicity of that answer reached people in a way that a more polished response never would have. The clip spread across social media that night. By morning, it had passed 10 million views on YouTube. The New York Times and the BBC both ran pieces calling her the voice of a teen Janis Joplin. Newspapers in Hesleden ran front-page features. A girl from a small village in County Durham had taken America completely by surprise. Simon praised her in a follow-up session with the words, You are not just copying anyone. You are yourself. That was the moment judges confirmed she would advance directly to the live shows. Overnight sensation. By the time the live shows started, Courtney Hadwin was no longer just a contestant. She was a headline. Within hours of her audition airing, viewers across the world had fallen into something that looked a lot like devotion. Messages arrived from Japan, Brazil, Australia, from people she would never meet who felt genuinely moved by what she had done on that stage. In Los Angeles, she woke early every morning to warm up her voice before breakfast. She worked with her coach on timing and breath control. She learned to work with spotlights and fog machines. She practiced walking with the microphone stand and pausing for dramatic effect. Producers noted that she handled every new challenge with a maturity that surprised them. For her live show performance, she chose Maybe by Janis Joplin. She stood on a stage framed by glowing arches and deep red lighting. The audience rose to its feet mid-song. Confetti cannons burst when she finished. Her performances ranked among the most viewed clips in the show's history within 24 hours of airing. The Ellen DeGeneres show called. Jimmy Fallon surprised her with a live drum beat behind her as she performed. Record labels sent offers. Merchandise companies reached out. Courtney called home after every interview. She had absorbed her mother's words to sing to share joy, not for fame, and they kept her anchored when everything around her was moving very fast. She wrote in her journal today, "I sang for millions. Tomorrow I will sing with my heart because I enjoyed it." From a single audition clip to worldwide recognition in the space of weeks, and underneath all of it hours of practice, a clear sense of purpose, and the same goal she had held as a small girl dancing in the living room in Hesleden. The tragic night. In early October of 2018, Courtney joined a small tour supporting fellow America's Got Talent finalists. After weeks of live shows, the group was traveling by bus from Minneapolis toward Madison, Wisconsin, for back-to-back performances. Courtney sat near a window, reading fan messages on her phone. Outside, heavy rain tapped against the glass. As the bus neared a curve on Interstate 94 around midnight, conditions turned dangerous. Rain had been falling for hours. Patches of water pooled along the shoulder. A gust of wind pushed the vehicle toward the guardrail. The driver braked hard but could not fully recover control. The bus skidded sideways for nearly 20 feet before coming to rest against the barrier with a final lurch and the sound of scraping metal. Silence followed. Then muffled sounds, voices, rain, hissing from somewhere under the chassis. Courtney had been thrown forward. She unfastened her seatbelt and stood slowly. Her right knee was throbbing sharply. A trickle of blood ran from her temple. Around her, fellow musicians were rising from their seats, shaken but conscious. The keyboardist held his wrist. The tour manager pressed a bruise on his shoulder. First responders arrived within minutes. 2 ambulances, a fire truck, a highway patrol cruiser. Paramedics boarded calmly, assessing each passenger. When they reached Courtney and examined her knee, they confirmed a fracture. They wrapped it in a soft brace, elevated her leg, cleaned the cut on her forehead, and arranged transport to St. Mary's Hospital in Madison. At the hospital, doctors confirmed a fractured right kneecap and a mild concussion. No surgery was required for the knee, but she would need 6 weeks of limited movement and a course of physical therapy. The concussion meant rest, reduced screen time, and no performances. News of the crash reached people quickly. Social media filled with posts. Simon Cowell and Heidi Klum recorded get-well messages. A GoFundMe page raised $32,000 in under 48 hours. Tour dates were canceled. Refunds were processed. Theater managers in Wisconsin and Illinois contacted ticket holders. Many fans donated their ticket fees back to the recovery fund. After 2 days in Madison, Courtney flew home to England under medical supervision. Her parents met her at the airport. The journey from golden buzzer to hospital bed had taken less than 3 months. Healing and hope. When Courtney walked through her front door in Hesleden, slowly, on crutches, with a brace around her right knee, She felt the particular relief of being in a place that had nothing to do with spotlights or schedules. Her mother's cooking. Her father's tools clinking from the garage. Familiar sounds. Physical therapy began the following week. She learned to bend her knee by degrees, 2 more degrees, 1 session, 5 more seconds of balance the next. Because of the concussion, she limited screen time and avoided reading for long stretches. She used her mornings to write. Songs about facing fear. Songs about finding strength. Songs about the pattern of raindrops on a window, comparing to a rhythm waiting to be heard. Her family had set up a small studio in the garden shed, a microphone, 2 speakers, a laptop connected to recording software. At first, she just hummed, keeping her voice in shape without straining it. Then she moved to soft covers of Aretha Franklin and Etta James. She recorded a slow version of Natural Woman, careful not to push too hard. Her community responded the way small communities sometimes do when one of their own is struggling. Neighbors brought food. Friends arrived with handmade cards and drawings. One evening, a few local singers gathered outside and performed an impromptu concert on the driveway, their voices rising under a street lamp while Courtney watched from the porch with her crutches leaning beside her. She cried, not from sadness but from the specific gratitude of being held by people who had known her before anyone else did. By late November, doctors cleared her for light singing tests. She stood in the garden shed without crutches for the first time, took a breath, and sang a few scales. Her voice was still there, intact, warm, and if anything slightly deeper than before. She uploaded a short practice video. Comments poured in immediately. Fans noted something new in her tone, something that had not been there before the crash. In early December, she was invited to perform at a charity benefit in Newcastle City Hall, raising funds for young musicians facing injuries. She wore a green dress, her knee brace hidden beneath the hem. She opened with a soft ballad drawn from the lyrics she had written during recovery. The song built slowly, each verse adding strength, until she lifted her voice in a clear, soaring finish. The crowd rose to its feet. She stood there for a moment, taking it in. The crash had paused her journey. But standing on that stage in Newcastle, she could see the path continuing ahead. Honoring her talent. In early 2019, America's Got Talent invited her to join Stars for Hope, a benefit tour supporting young performers facing hardship. She took the stage in Chicago and opened with Piece of My Heart. The audience rose before the first chorus. A special concert called Girls of Soul, celebrating groundbreaking female voices, brought her to London's Jazz Café. She joined for the final number, a stirring version of Try a Little Tenderness. As she hit the closing high note, the crowd gave a standing ovation. Backstage, she talked with other young singers about what it means to build a career while staying connected to the reason you started. Record labels had been paying attention through all of it. In spring 2019, Courtney recorded an extended play at a studio in Newcastle. She co-wrote 2 original songs, one about overcoming fear, one about gratitude, and recorded covers of Respect and At Last. Producers noted her ability to blend vintage soul style with something genuinely fresh. The EP appeared on Spotify and Apple Music and received positive responses from music blogs and radio stations across the UK and United States. She also started giving back in ways that felt personal rather than promotional. A local arts council in County Durham invited her to lead a masterclass for young singers. Over 50 students attended. She taught microphone technique and breath support. She told them, "Your voice is your story. Sing it true." She launched a small scholarship fund providing annual grants covering 6 months of singing lessons. The first winners were a pair of sisters aged 10 and 12. At their first recital, they dedicated their performance to Courtney, who watched from the front row. In 2025, as conversations about discovering and protecting young talent in the entertainment industry have intensified, that were driven partly by a wave of public reckonings about how child performers are treated by the industry. Courtney Hadwin's story reads as something worth examining carefully. A 13-year-old who became a global sensation almost overnight, navigated serious physical injury at the height of her momentum, and came through it with her voice, her values, and her sense of self intact. That does not happen automatically. It happens because of the people around you and the choices you make when the cameras are not on. By the end of 2019, Courtney had moved from contestant to recording artist to mentor. Each step honored the voice that first stunned an arena in Nebraska. Her journey showed that success is not only about what happens when everything goes right. It is about what you build from what remains when it does not.